Hey, what's happening, DC Readers? Me, the Guy01, and welcome to this week's first episode on the Walkthrough channel. This week, it's LA Knight versus Edge. It is our weekly birthday versus. We had two birthdays this week, and it's these two. Edge's birthday was on October 30th, he turned 51, and LA Knight's birthday was yesterday on November 1st, he turned 42. So those are our two birthdays for the week. It's still funny seeing this version of LA Knight because this is like right when he went back to being LA Knight after being Eli Drake. Or no, not Eli Drake. This is when he stopped being Max Dupree and went back to being LA Knight. So like this is before he started getting like big reactions and everything. So it's funny seeing this version of him still, you know, like 2 years later. Now that he's like the current United States champion, which now that I think about that, I gotta update that. Honestly, it might not even be worth updating it in this game. You know, if the next game's coming out soon, yeah, it wouldn't be worth updating it. In this one. And of course we've got Edge. So we don't really have a lot of stuff to talk about. It's really just Raw and SmackDown. And because Crown Jewel is today, both Raw and SmackDown were a bit lighter in what they were doing, you know, because you don't want to risk injuries before these, you know, premium live events. So, kicking off with Raw. Raw began with Jimmy and Jey Uso reuniting in the ring after reuniting on SmackDown last week. Basically, Jimmy trying to convince Jey to join him and Roman Reigns to fight the new Bloodline. Before we could get an official answer, the Bloodline, speaking of which, attacked both the Usos, but Jimmy and Jey were able to fight them off and send us into our first match of the night, which saw Sheamus face Ludwig Kaiser and beat Ludwig Kaiser, and then just another hard-hitting match which has become standard for Sheamus the past, I don't know, 3-4 years. Oh yeah. Zelina Vega faced Ivy Nile with both the LWO and the Creed brothers at ringside. Of course, when you have a situation like that, you know that there's going to be some kind of brawl, which is what we got. The LWO and American May got into a brawl at ringside, and the distraction allowed Ivy Nile to beat Zelina Vega. Ow. Ow. The two overalls here, by the way, I think it's like LA Knight has an overall of 81, and Edge is like 91 or 93. Yeah, so it's at least 10. We're roughly right about 10. And so yeah, we're the underdog in this one. Yeah. The War Raiders beat the New Day and the LWO in a triple threat tag team match. Thanks to a distraction by Chad Gable attacking Rey Mysterio during the match. So yeah, they're not the Viking Raiders anymore, they are the War Raiders. That's like been made official. So no more Viking Raiders, which I'm not, too upset about. I remember when that change first kind of got made, and they got called the Viking Raiders. People were like, man, we're really going back to the 80s with this gimmick, aren't we? And then in the main event, yes, the main event, like I said, Raw and SmackDown were a lot lighter this week, and, after years and years of 3-hour Raws, only having like 4 or 5 matches on Raw, man, it's been a while since, that's been the case. Oh, dang it. Ow. So yes, in the main event, Damian Priest faced Dominic Mysterio as the surprise opponent for Dominic Mysterio. Basically, all Dominic knew coming into the match was it was going to be a former world champion, with Dominic basically wanting to prove that he could hang with the best, until told the Judgment Day beforehand to kind of stay backstage and he's got it under control. Well, they didn't stay backstage for long. Judgment Day came out. They were then fended off by Damian Priest with a chair, but the distraction allowed Dominic Mysterio to actually steal the win and get one over on Damian Priest. Which is actually kind of surprising that they decided to go that direction. After the match, Damian Priest then attacked Dominic Mysterio, and again, this is apparently, from what I understand, of what people are saying, this is supposed to be like the end of the Damian Priest Judgment Day story. This was going to be like their last, interaction, at least for now. I believe Damian Priest is now moving on to something else, or the Judgment Day is moving on to something else. But yeah, apparently this was... Hey. Apparently this was supposed to be the big blow-off match, and it just didn't really feel like it. It was too one-sided. The distraction and, interference from Judgment Day didn't really give it that feeling of finality. Whether or not it actually ends up being like the final, match between Damian Priest and the Judgment Day, we'll have to see. I can see why they want to end it, because it is kind of dragging now. They've already basically established that Judgment Day can't really do anything to... Oh, you got some height on that one. And another one, for good measure. They basically established that the Judgment Day really can't get one over on Damian Priest or Rhea Ripley, without help. So they seemingly moved on, and which might be a good thing. Let the Judgment Day feud with another stable, instead of feuding with like a single star. Because the problem with like having stables feud with a single star is you have one person taking out an entire team of people like on a regular basis, which doesn't make the team look good. But if you have two teams going against each other, you can trade wins a lot more without making one of them, look inferior, as opposed to having one guy, constantly beat the same like 4 or 5 people over and over. Anyway, moving on to SmackDown. Liv Morgan beat Tiffany Stratton in what was like kind of an awkward match. It just didn't feel like they had a lot of time to get going, and there were a few very prominent like missteps and miscommunication things going on in it. So not a great start. But again, like I said before, this is the go-home show, so they probably want the matches to be very, very traditional and not... They don't want people taking risks at this close to the show. Whoop. Up and over, under and out. Whoop. Got him up. Yeah. Hey, night, yeah. The Street Profits beat Pretty Deadly in a tag team match. Again, another just fine match. Nothing too extraordinary. Naomi and Bayley beat Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, and again, it was just another fine match. There were a few awkward moments. No, I don't think anyone's going to really remember the match itself, but one thing that is significant about this match is that it is apparently going to be Indy Hartwell's final WWE match, as the company announced that she will be leaving the company earlier in the day. Now, there was like a conflicting statement going around where, like, I guess like a news article came out saying that Indy Hartwell's contract is coming up and they've basically already come to terms that she's not going to renew, and it like expires in 90 days. That's like the headline I saw. but then they said this is her last match, so I don't know if that whole, report of the 90 days thing happened 90 days ago, or if it just, that 90 days, time frame came up today. So I don't really know what's going on there, but, it's unfortunate that Indy Hartwell is, going away from WWE. She was a pretty, consistent performer, getting better, and, she was someone who was always, pretty, consistently featured in, WWE, social media things. She was just always, that face that was kind of there, or that person who they could, go to if they needed someone to appear in a video or a promotional piece. So, I guess as time goes on, we'll find out more about why she decided to leave, or just not stick with them. We'll have to see. The big segment of the night was Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns calling out Jey Uso, again trying to convince him to reunite with them to take on the new bloodline. Jey Uso came out and said he'll only join them if they make it very clear up front that they are all equals, that there is no tribal chief, there is no hierarchy in this group anymore. To which Roman Reigns responded, yeet. And I guess that cleared up everything. And so they're officially back together, the Usos and Roman Reigns. So we've got 3 of the 4 people who are going to be in the eventual War Games match, which we all know is coming. Now it's just a matter to see who man number 4 is going to be. Which again, and I've said this for the past couple weeks, is going to be really interesting to see what WWE does with that. Because there's so many possibilities with who they can bring in. Because they've got a long list of people who have had trouble with both the original version of the Bloodline and this new Bloodline. So there's a lot of things they can do here that'll be really interesting to see. Io Sky beat Piper Niven, Bianca Belair, and Lash Legend in a fatal 4-way between the 4 women who are part of the 4 teams that will be in the fatal 4-way tag title match at Crown Jewel. And in the main event, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton beat Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther. After the match, Kevin Owens attacked Randy Orton with a steel chair while wearing a Dusty Rhodes shirt, which is amazing. And then Gunther grabbed Cody Rhodes and put him in a sleeper hold to close out the show. And that does it for Raw and SmackDown. Like I said, a lot lighter this week, which is to be expected with, go-home shows. I feel like WWE is still kind of getting used to Raw being 2 hours again, instead of 3 hours, because, when you've been doing something for 10 years, it's kind of weird when it changes. You kind of get a rhythm of doing things, and now that rhythm is now kind of gone. It's broken. But I think it's a good change that they made. Raw is definitely a lot more faster paced, and we get a lot more out of individual matches, because I feel like with the 3-hour thing, they focused more on having more matches than having longer, matches, which you don't always want to have super long matches, and you don't want every match to be 15-20 minutes. But this definitely gives them the opportunity to have, the big marquee matches, get more time without having, cut away to 5 commercial breaks, 3 backstage segments, 2 interviews, that whole thing. Just to fill a 30-minute span just so we can get to the main event. So it's a lot better in that regard. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make videos all the time. Stay tuned for next week's Versus, and next week where we continue our Batman Arkham Knight walkthrough. Hope you guys enjoyed. DC Guy01 and LA Knight signing out. Bye guys.